brought to you by Bangkok Bank.
Good morning, ASEAN. Freshen up your world, your thought, your idea with us every Monday to Friday from 7:30 to 8 a.m. I'm Nirasham Saklamia.
And Minatung It is Friday, the 13th of September, and the situation in the Philippines, in the southern Philippines, is still getting serious as the deadly standoff between hundreds of heavily armed Muslim rebels and Philippine security forces in Zamboanga city in the Mindanao Island entered its fourth day yesterday. The government troops are trying to regain control of the southern Philippine city after the rebels on September 9 stormed in, taking hostages. On September 11th, Zamboanga's mayor, Isabel Climaco, said that the gunmen were holding some 100 hostages, and she appealed for their release. Security officials say these rebels belong to a rogue faction of the Moro National Liberation Front, or MNLF rebel group, which entered into a peace agreement with government in 1996 and ran a Muslim autonomous region on southern Mindanao Island. The rebels were holed up in residential areas of Zamboanga on Thursday, local media reported, as the military tried to flush them out, sending residents fleeing and leaving houses on fire. The MNLF rogue faction was formed in 2001, led by original MNLF founder, former university professor Norm Miswari, who claimed the government had not fully implemented the 1996 deal. The rogue faction wants to continue to fight for a fully independent Muslim state in the southern Philippines. Miswari also opposed a deal signed last year by the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, of MILF, in which the group agreed to a new autonomous region that would give it greater political powers and more control over resources. 4 decades of conflict in the south has killed 120,000 people, displaced 2 million, and stunted growth in the poor but resource-rich area of the mainly Roman Catholic country.
And now let's have a look at Indonesia, as Indonesia's central bank yesterday unexpectedly hiked its main interest rate in an aggressive bid to boost the rupiah, as it forecast recent economic turmoil would push growth in 2013 to a 4-year low. It was the second hike in the space of 2 weeks and means that Bank Indonesia has now lifted its key rate 150 basis points since June to prop up the currency as investors flee Southeast Asia's top economy. Emerging markets from Brazil to Turkey have been hit hard by fears that the U.S. Federal Reserve may taper off its bond buying program. The easy money policy fueled an investment spree in developing countries as investors look for better returns, but the capital flows have now started to dry up as the U.S. economy shown signs of strengthening. Indonesia's woes have been compounded by domestic problems such as widening current account and trade deficit, slowing growth, and rocketing inflation. And as yesterday, Bank Indonesia surprised economists who had expected the bank to stand firm by increasing its benchmark rate 25 basis points to 7.25%. Jakarta's benchmark stock index reacted positively, ending in the positive territory, up 0.17% after the hike. And some analysts welcomed the move as a positive signal that Indonesian policymakers were aware of the serious dangers facing the economy and were prepared to act. However, others warned it was further evidence that the Indonesian economy was deteriorating faster than its emerging market peers. Bank Indonesia also revised downwards its annual economic growth forecast for 2013 to between 5.5 to 5.9% from 5.8 to 6.2% yesterday. If its forecast proved to be accurate, it would be the slowest growth for the Indonesian economy since 2009.
And the move to have a single visa for the northern ASEAN countries continues as the Vietnamese tourism minister and his counterparts from Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Myanmar has convened in a meeting in Ho Chi Minh City to discuss plans for a single visa policy for the countries. Speaking at the ACMEX conference, Minister Hong Tuan An said the idea of having a single visa that can be applied for all 5 nations was put on the table to further boost the tourism development of these countries, whose international arrivals in 2012 reached 37 million turns, which is an 18% growth despite the global economic recession. ACMEX stands for Ayeyarwady Chao Phraya Mekong Economic Cooperation Strategy, which is a political, economic, and cultural organization among the above countries. 2 of the ACMEX nations, Cambodia and Thailand, are already running a pilot scheme on the single visa policy, under which tourists obtaining a visa to enter Thailand is allowed to enter Cambodia and vice versa. At the meeting, the ministers also reached an agreement to set up a new transnational tourism passage from Bagan, Chiang Mai, Luang Prabang, Vientiane, Siem Reap, Da Nang, and Hue.
And now let's have a look at the bilateral relationship between Singapore and Vietnam, as Singapore sees challenges and opportunities in moving forward the strategic partnership agreement with Vietnam. Grace Fu, Minister in the Prime Minister's Office and Second Minister for Foreign Affairs, say that these are in the areas of political, economic and people-to-people ties. Fu, who is in Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong's delegations to Vietnam, added that Singapore is in a good position to tap Vietnam's industries, especially as Vietnam has links to other countries through its various free trade agreements. There have been many high-level exchanges between Singapore and Vietnam at the leaders' level. Fu said that Singapore would like to keep up the momentum under the strategic partnership, an agreement that paves the way for new areas of economic cooperations, including in the banking sector. The minister notes that Vietnam has gone through a difficult period of time with its fiscal policies as well as its currency management. And as for trade, Singapore is Vietnam's 7th largest trading partner. Prime Minister Lee noted during his bilateral discussion with Vietnamese leaders that two-way trade has tripled over the past decades to almost $12 billion last month. Another area of cooperation that is set to grow under the Singapore-Vietnam strategic partnership is people-to-people ties through growth in the aviation and education sectors. Fu said that Vietnam is a very important country involved in the Singapore Cooperations Program since it started in 1992, and close to 14,000 Vietnamese officials have received different forms of training under this program.
With Thailand experiencing downward growth in the first half of the year, let's take a look at this report which talks about its competitiveness.
Despite a slowdown in competitiveness for Thailand in the past 2 quarters, the country remains attractive in the long term, according to the director of the World Competitiveness Center, Stefan Garelli. Thailand's GDP growth is 2.6% for the past 12 months, and growth is 1.4% down from the previous quarter, Garelli said at the recent Thailand Competitiveness Conference. Thailand has seen a decrease in domestic demand and exports for the first half of the year, which might have slowed its competitiveness. However, the Southeast Asian country has attracted long-term investment for many years and has a long tradition of competitiveness, such as the automobile sector. Garelli said he believed investors will look beyond the 2 quarters of downward growth, saying Thailand remains extremely attractive for manufacturing. He said competitiveness will not be highly impacted by slower growth, but rather business laws, such as corporate tax and the continuous liberalization of the financial sector.
And I think that for the moment, Thailand has just to make sure that you have a policy in place. The real issue about competitiveness is that actually companies can adapt almost anything, but they need to have a policy that doesn't change. So predictability is a very important factor in competitiveness for enterprises.
The director said Thailand is on the right track to enhance competitiveness by tackling its infrastructure, although he suggested that logistics is key.
We have a lot of countries investing in infrastructure, but actually the infrastructure does not lead to any really tangible result in competitiveness. Logistics is how you use your infrastructure? How do you connect the harbor with the railways, with the railroads, with the custom authorities, etc.? How do you make it happen in a smoother way for the business to operate in a country? Logistics is critical.
He suggested what the country needs to work on in order to stay competitive in the region.
I think the fact that you are going to go up the value chain, I think you are surrounded by countries now which are going to be very low cost. The fact that Myanmar is coming into the picture very quickly, and Myanmar is going to come with low cost competitiveness strategy. Vietnam has also this. I think that really the challenge for Thailand is to make sure that you have more skilled, more added value into the product. And this leads, of course, to education, because you have very low level of unemployment, but basically the skill of the workforce has to be increased a little bit more. Not enough engineers, not enough people who are able to manage processes, technical processes, and I think this is important for the future of the country.
Thailand ranks on the 27th position out of 60 countries surveyed by the IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook 2013. The country has moved up 3 ranks from last year and comes third among Southern ASEAN countries, behind Singapore and Malaysia, and ahead of Indonesia and the Philippines. Winatongprasit reports.
And coming up next after the break, we're going to update on the Myanmar foreign's investments.
Of course, the majority of the population, 95, เหนือระดับน้ำทะเลที่ 3,700 เมตร บนหลังคาโลกที่
Catch up the special series of Tibet, the miraculous roof of the world, starting 16th September. Brought to you by Bangkok Bank.
The total foreign investment in Myanmar has reached 43 billion US dollars in August, according to the Myanmar Investment Commission. Myanmar has foreign investments from 32 countries in 4 major sectors: energy, oil and gas, mining, and manufacturing, said an official from the Myanmar Investment Commission. China is the biggest investor in Myanmar, followed by Thailand, Hong Kong, South Korea, Britain, Singapore, Malaysia, France, Vietnam, and India. Thailand is the largest importer from Myanmar. As much as 41% of Myanmar's total exports went to Thailand last year. Myanmar imported mainly from China in 2012, with a total of 37% from Myanmar's imports coming from China. The International Monetary Fund expects the GDP, or gross domestic product, of Myanmar to increase to 5.5% in 2013 and 6.2% in 2014.
And now let's have a look at our special reports on the importance of the products and the store designs for Thai SMEs in preparations towards the AEC. Success in a highly competitive era, they need to differentiate themselves from others so as to become business leaders, according to Vinay Virojariyakorn, Managing Director of Peninsula Associate and organizer of SME Thailand Expo 2013. Under the event's theme, Sparkling Your Idea, Pat Prapha Kanya Viriya, a local retailer shared his experience in competing in the retail market with giant retailers in Yawarat or Chinatown area, as he was able to expand his customer base.
ผมมองว่าร้านโชห่วยทุกร้านนะครับเขามีเอกลักษณ์ขายของที่เป็นเฉพาะมากทีนี้ก็อยากจะให้มองสินค้าของแต่ละคนว่ามีอะไรโดดเด่นควรจะพรีเซนต์อะไรออกมาที่สำคัญที่สุดเนี่ยอย่ามองแค่การจัดร้านให้เป็นระเบียบเฉยๆอาจจะต้องดึงดีไซน์เข้ามาเป็นส่วนประกอบด้วยแล้วก็มองถึงทำเลที่ตั้งว่าเราอยู่ตรงมุมของไหนของที่ตรงไหนเพื่อจะได้ทำดีไซน์ออกมาให้ตรงกันของเราก็มีเราอยู่ในย่านเยาวราชเราก็ดึงวัฒนธรรมจีนเข้ามามีส่วนประกอบในร้านนะครับก็คือยกตัวอย่างเช่นใช้โคมเต็งลังนะครับแต่เรามีเป็นกรีนคอนเซปต์ก็เลยเอาโคมเต็งลังตรงนี้มาทำให้เป็นสีเขียวนะครับแล้วก็วางให้มันแน่นนะครับผมให้ดู Impact เวลาคนที่เขาเข้ามาในร้านเนี่ยก็ดูตื่นตาตื่นใจนะครับแล้วก็มองไปรอบๆก็จะเห็นผนังชั้นเชลฟ์สีดำเห็นสินค้าที่วางเยอะๆละลานตาก็จะดูน่าสวยงามน่าซื้อ
Small and medium enterprises or SMEs in Thailand can create their uniqueness by introducing new ideas and designs to their business so as to open their markets for ASEAN.
คนที่ทำงานดีไซน์ก็จะมีความรู้ในเรื่องของการดีไซน์ดีอยู่แล้วเพียงแต่ว่าต้องหาตัวตนที่แท้จริงให้เจอครับว่าเรามีสไตล์หรือมีอัตลักษณ์ส่วนตัวเป็นยังไงบ้างนะฮะแล้วก็ขับตัวนั้นออกมาให้มันเป็นเราอย่างแท้จริงเพราะว่าตรงนี้เนี่ยจะเป็นตัวบอกว่าหรือขับดันออกมาเป็นตัวผลิตภัณฑ์ว่าผลิตภัณฑ์แบบนี้เนี่ยหรือสไตล์แบบนี้เนี่ยมันคือของใครนะฮะซึ่งสิ่งที่เราทำมาตรงนี้เนี่ยมันจะบ่งบอกความเป็นตัวเรามากที่สุดฉะนั้นคนที่เห็นงานเราจะรู้หรือสะท้อนจากผลิตภัณฑ์ขึ้นมาที่ตัวเราได้เลยครับ
For businesses that focus on design such as brand remaker, they can export their products to upper markets such as Europe, the United States, and ASEAN without much trouble. Design business requires talents on the part of the business owner. For local retailers like Law Yawarat, they can also expand local trade to the ASEAN market. This can be done through integrating trade, design, and planning to help a Thai local retailer plan for the ASEAN market in the near future.
สมัยก่อนเลยตั้งแต่70ปีที่ผ่านมาเนี่ยก็กลุ่มลูกค้าก็จะเป็นพวกกลุ่มภัตตาคารกลุ่มร้านอาหารใช่ไหมครับแล้วก็มีพวกที่ซื้อไปขายต่อทีนี้เนี่ยพอเราปรับร้านใหม่ก็จะกลายเป็นมีกลุ่มนักท่องเที่ยวที่เขาสนใจในด้านดีไซน์เขาเข้ามาดูในเรื่องของดีไซน์ก่อนหลังจากนั้นก็มองไปที่สินค้าของเราแล้วก็ช็อปเราอยากจะทำระบบที่ร้านตรงเนี้ยที่เป็นร้านโชว์หวยธุรกิจกงสีของที่บ้านเนี่ยให้เป็นระบบที่ชัดเจนนะครับหลังจากนั้นเนี่ยเราก็อยากจะไปอยู่สู่ AEC ก็คือเราจะพรีเซนต์ของสินค้าที่เป็นของไทยที่เราขายอยู่เนี่ยแต่เอาตรงเนี้ยไปอยู่ต่างประเทศให้คนต่างประเทศเขาเห็นว่าสินค้าของไทยมันเยอะมากแล้วมันก็อร่อยจริงด้วยและแถมยังมีการค้าขายที่เป็นลักษณะพูดคุยเป็นกันเองก็คือโชว์หวย
If SME entrepreneurs focus on design or add new ideas to their business, it would highly make their businesses more competitive amongst its regional neighbors, as consumers nowadays in the region pay greater attention to product design and its uniqueness. And that wraps up our Good Morning ASEAN edition. See you again, same time, same place, same channel.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm Rina Jumprasit.
And I am Nirasha Malisak Lami. Have a great weekend. สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะ